Audio Jungle.
Welcome to the HuskGuys podcast. Oh yeah!
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the HuskGuys podcast. We are pumped tonight to be joined by one of our favorite wide receivers, especially of recent memory. And we are very excited to have him on. Brandon Reilly, 20th in school history, 70 catches, 1,725 yards, and 18.2 yards per catch, which is something I had to double and triple check to make sure that was actually accurate because I did not believe you averaged 18 yards per catch in your entire career. But we are pumped to have you on. Brandon, welcome to the HuskGuys podcast.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Looking forward to the conversation.
Awesome, man. All right, so here's our plan for today, HuskGuys fans. We're going to first obviously talk about our sponsors, and then we're going to jump into Brandon. We're going to bounce back and forth from his playing days, talk about the current team, current squad, where we're at after 6 games, and what we should expect over the next 6 games. And spoiler alert, I'm feeling extremely good. I think we're going to win the rest of our games, which is a very dangerous place to be in, and Brandon's going to calm me down. But first, a quick word from our sponsors. First off, as per usual, Pipeline Jerky. Brandon was fortunately one of our first supporters of Pipeline Jerky, so we appreciate you for that, Brandon. This great jerky, every single bag sends a royalty directly to the offensive line. Brandon, we're going to be talking about NIL a little bit and get your perspective on that too. We also would love for everybody to check out HuskGuysStore.com. We got all the merch. We got cool There's No Place Like Nebraska stuff, Go Big Red stuff, This Is the Year stuff. Just came out with a new shirt today that is blowing up. That is If We Die, We Die, straight from Matt Rule's mouth. That shirt's blowing up and going like crazy, which has been fun. And finally, last shout out to Landon Lore, men's natural skincare product line. So, we know the Foundry has been pretty good to us, and, we're getting wrinkles from watching Big Ten West football. So, you probably want to look and feel as young as you were when you were the most dominant program in all of football back in the 90s. Landon Lore can get you there. HuskGuys 10 at checkout. Go to land-lore.com. Proud sponsor of HuskGuys Pod and Wrinkle Killer. All right, Brandon, coming off the top rope, here is my first question. I'm always dying to ask this of former Huskers. So when you watch the game, how do you watch and what is the experience like? Like, are you stressed? Are you excited? Are you watching with friends? Do you have a text thread that you're blowing up on? Like, hit us with that as a former player who played at the highest level. What's that like for you?
Yeah, a little bit of everything you kind of mentioned there. I like to – I've got to the point where if I don't go to the game, I kind of just like to watch at home with a small group just so I can really watch it and, really, really watch the game intently rather than, at a sports bar or something. It's kind of hard to see and hear. And I like to how am I trying to say this? You really get a full view of the game kind of in a smaller setting. But, I still do. I go to a few games a year. I was down on the sideline for that Michigan game. Unfortunate how that turned out, but it was pretty hyped there before the game, and a bunch of former players were down there. So it's always good to see guys again, and definitely have a few text threads with some former players. Nate, Gary, and I are very close. College roommates, so usually talk to him a few times throughout the game, and it's been tough to watch at times, but I also see a lot of positivity this year and things to build on. And I do think Rule has done a pretty good job to this point, and I look forward to seeing kind of what he all does.
Yeah, I would love for you to dig into a little bit more. So when you watch, you obviously played on some great teams, some 10-win teams, some 9-win teams. Is it, as you're texting with friends and as you're watching intently, are you breaking down the game as you're watching it? Are you saying like they should be doing this? Are you texting guys like this is awful? Like, what's the level of like intent that you are as you're watching the game? Like, what's the level of intensity?
Yeah, it's probably gone down over the years, the intensity, soon, right after, obviously, still playing when I was up in Buffalo, going back and forth, with guys on the team when, playing their college team. So it's pretty intense watching at that point. But, now that I'm getting older, I just turned 30, the intensity level's down a little, but, the focus is still there on the games. And, I don't like to bash them too hard because, I've been in their spot. I know nobody wants to play bad and drop passes or throw picks or miss tackles. So, I try not to get on guys, but I was really impressed that last game against Illinois when, the defense kind of got beat up against Michigan. And, I thought how they responded showed a lot about them and showed a lot about the coaching, and they believe in the coaches. So that was something, watching the game, I was really appreciative of.
Yeah, totally. Tell me, so this is another, kind of bigger question we have coming off the top. So you played through a coaching change. You started your career playing for Pelini. And so now I'm looking at it, you played 1, 2, 3 seasons with Pelini, experienced the coaching change into Reilly, and then played 2 seasons under Reilly. Can you kind of take us into the locker room about that transition from year to year and tell us a little bit what you think the players are going through right now in this transition year? Now they're halfway through the transition year, but they're still in year 1 of a new coach. What's that experience like in the first year of your new regime midway through the season?
Yeah, Pelini and Reilly, 2 very similar coaches, both ends of the spectrum there. I think it's a little bit different going from Frost to Rule, because I think a lot of people assumed that Frost was probably going to get fired, where Pelini was kind of out of the blue, and how it happened. Me and Nate were talking about this the other day. We found it was like an email or text message how we found out.
Jeez, really?
And I think that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, especially, we had just beat Iowa. It just rubbed people the wrong way a lot. And, Pelini was a player's coach. Guys liked him a lot. And, people were very bent out of shape that he got fired. And, guys on the team went to the AD, like, you better bring us a winning coach now. And so I think when Coach Reilly got hired, there was definitely animosity, and the locker room was split a little bit. And, your leadership council, senior leaders, we need them to really step up at that point to kind of bring people back together, remember why we're here, what we're doing, just kind of get back to the basics and just play football, play together and stack some wins. And, I think that's what these guys, need to do. And I think they have been doing, getting back to the basics, do the little things. You can't beat yourself. The pre-snap penalties, how many I realized that Illinois, they maybe were clapping or messing up on the snap count, but you can't beat yourself. And I think when you go through a big coaching change, it's easy to blame things on that. And I think you have to have a really strong leadership with amongst the team to, not point fingers and, step up yourself and get the job done.
Yeah, I think I think a lot of Nebraska fans have been reflecting back on the Pelini years quite a bit. It's crazy in hindsight. Obviously, there's a ton of other things going on in that season, but a 9-4 season that finishes with a victory over Iowa is crazy. That's where it was to then where it's been the last 5-6 years. Nobody could have, I think, ever predicted that. So I totally makes sense that there'd be the animosity of what do we got to do? It's a 9-win season, especially for the guys in the locker room who are winning all the games you should.
Yeah, it seems like, I hate saying we're cursed and whatnot, but God, it just seems like nothing goes our way. I feel like Illinois was the one game where, the other team, they were dropping interceptions. We were getting some bounces.
Yeah.
And granted, we couldn't put the game away. We like to make everyone stress out, but it just seems like things aren't bouncing our way. When Frost comes in, the game gets delayed and COVID and all that. It's been a crazy years, and now I see it being a fan.
It's not in curse the stadium at that point.
It gets tough.
Do you? No, I 100% agree. I think that one thing that stands out to Nebraska fans is that every year it seems like it just seems like there's 1 or 2 missing ingredients. There's it seems like you've got the pieces in place, and then something just crazily catastrophic that you couldn't have imagined will happen, or something like losing our top 2 running backs and our top 3 receivers. Things like this just happen, but we're 3-3. We still got a chance.
Well, let's you want to dive in right there, Andrew? Brandon, I love your perspective on. Again, playing through adversity on what we got our top 3 wide receivers out, top 2 running backs out. Jeff Sims gets hurt, start of the season. Pretty thin across the board on offense. Like, how do you think? I mean, I don't know. Open-ended question on the offense.
Yeah.
Specifically because you've been a wide receiver and you know that world. Like, how do these young guys step up? But then overall, like as you're watching it, what do you think about this offense and what do you think they got to do?
Yeah, you're right. And going back to, things not going your way, it's, I know there's injuries on other teams, but I feel like, Rule's first year, we're trying to get off to the right start and everyone seems to be going down. It's tough, but it's next man up and an opportunity, when it's there, you got to make the most of it. That's kind of how I first got on the field. It was, practice, do the right thing. So if someone goes down, they're going to call me. And when that comes, I have to deliver or else they're going to try the next guy, especially being a walk-on, it's kind of your role and how it's going to be. And, I think I saw that Malachi Coleman from Lincoln East might be starting this week. And
sure.
Did he think that would happen his freshman year? Maybe, but there's no time to wait now. You got to get ready to go. And
no choice now.
With that, the game's a lot quicker than high school. The playbook's a lot more. I think coaches have to do a good job at making it simple for some of these young guys now that they're having to play more, whether, it's Malachi, you got these 10 plays you got to remember. And Jalen Lloyd, if you're getting in, you got these 10 plays, really focus on these rather than throwing everything at them because, they're going to be swimming out there. But it's, they're great athletes and no better time to step up and make a name for yourself.
Yeah,
I do think we have to, especially now, use Fedoni a lot.
Yeah.
Georgia uses that Bowers. I'm not saying they're the same player, but Fedoni's he's a mismatch. And I think the more you get the ball in his hands, the easier it's going to be. And, Harburg, I think Fedoni's kind of his security blanket. If he doesn't know, he's looking that way. And, a tight end's a quarterback's best friend. And so I really think with these injuries, we got to start using him a lot.
Yeah, no doubt. How long do you think it was before you started feeling comfortable, I guess? I mean, I imagine the first rep compared to the 5th to the 100th is quite a bit of difference. But like, at what point did you start saying like, all right, I should be out there?
Yeah, no, great question. Freshman year walk on, I felt like I was in the wrong place. You go from in high school, you're a pretty good player, and
they calling the wrong person.
Yeah, and we were in the weight room doing like max pull-ups. Amani Cross does like 40 and Janovich, and I'm like, I'm in the wrong place. When you get on the field and I remember I did like a release and I like spun and I'm like, what am I even doing? And it's just like, okay, back to the basics, figure it out. And so then, you just work hard and I'll never forget, Kenny Bell said in an interview one year, he's like, if I'm buying stock in someone, he was buying in me. And I was like hearing that from a guy of his caliber.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, if he sees it now, I can see it in myself and I'm ready to go. So, leadership like that, that helped me bring me to the next level, I would say. And then, when Mike Reilly got hired, he brought Keith Williams as the receiver coach. And, that's really when I think I hit the next step for sure.
Did you just find that he was, I mean, was it just his coaching style or what?
It was his coaching style and how he could relate everything. And, I've said this before and some I'll always remember, he finally said one day, he's like, I think I expect more out of you than you expect out of yourself. And, you sit there and think about that and like, well, damn, like, okay, he sees it. He's coached NFL studs, let's just do it. And so I think it was his way, his technique of the game and just the mental side of it. His big thing was, of course we want every pass to be right here, but if the ball's in the air and it's not where you want it, rather, a lot of guys are like, roll their eyes some. And he was like, no, your mindset needs to be wait till they see this catch. And so our room really grasped that. And from, Jordan Westerkamp to Pearsonell to Stanley Morgan, Alonzo Moore, we had quite a few catches on top 10 even. And I really think that was a testament to him and the mindset, we had because of him.
God, that kills me hearing these names. Like all 7 of those guys have started on the team right now. I mean, that is a squad. What I mean, I would kind of love your take on that too. I mean, even coming back to I still can't believe you averaged 18 yards per catch your entire career. I love Tommy Armstrong's probably an all-time favorite. Just the YOLO bombs. The guy could just absolutely chuck it. Dramatically different offense than now. I guess, what do you think of our current overall offensive strategy philosophy? It's obviously dramatically different than what you ran in, or maybe it's aimed to be similar, but we just don't have the pieces yet.
It's tough to get a full grasp, with Satterfield, his first year, it's tough. And he probably wishes he had some other guys out there. And it's without being able to go review the film, just kind of watch it on TV. It's tough to see scheme and passes. And, last game we threw a pass to Ty Hahn, and I think we threw it into the wind, and he kind of had to come back and he caught it. But I think it was a very well-designed play where if we could have made the throw, he would have probably scored wide open, looked like a hero play call, So it's really tough without going and watching the film. But, you got to find some things that work, whether it's Harburg or Sims. It's like, okay, what passes are you comfortable with? Let's get those. Let's build some confidence and then build off of that. And, you mentioned Tommy, chucking it up, but, he did that because he was confident that we were going to come down with it. And, once one guy makes it, the other guys want to make the plays. And, we had a fun, competitive room. It was never, selfish at all. We wanted the next guy to make the play, but we wanted to have the catch of the game for sure. And, we had a great room, and I hope, these receiver rooms get how ours was. But, these injuries definitely hurt.
Yeah. No, I mean, Tommy just had an absolute bazooka. Just,
he
just absolutely let it rip.
Yeah, he can sling it for sure. I went and watched him last year play for the Omaha Beef, and he's still just slinging it around.
Yeah, I've seen some highlights of him just
the indoor field's too small for him.
Yeah, no doubt.
Probably chucking it into the stands. He's hitting the hot dog guy.
Yeah.
What do you think about or I guess what was your reaction to hiring Garrett McGuire? I mean, 24-year-old.
For first reaction, I don't want to say disappointed because that's not fair to him.
Sure.
But, Keith Williams reached out to me and he's like, hey, who do you know up there? I'm trying to come back.
Ooh.
And I'm like, he's the best around. But I just said, I don't know anyone up there anymore, really. And so I was disappointed. I don't know if they ever talked to him. I don't know if they knew.
Who do we need to talk to? That's it.
Yeah. I mean, he's locked in on the NFL right now, but I just think he's such a good college coach because how he can relate to anybody and how he coaches. But he's doing great with the Ravens. He's got a great group there, and I can't say enough good things about him. But I got a chance to meet Garrett McGuire a few times, and he's dedicated. He's very passionate. I think he knows the position well, and it'd be a tough spot though, especially with NIL, being a young coach. Criticism, maybe the receivers aren't making plays. It's a tough spot, but I think he can do it. I mean, you hear about coaches and players in the NFL that said great things about him and his reputation. So, I hope the best for him.
Yeah, I've been impressed, just hearing the players' reactions and stuff so far. Sometimes it's just hard, from that outsider perspective. Do they just not want to, be honest sometimes? And you're like, are they just saying that so they don't lose any playing time or something?
Yeah.
But I think the genuine reaction seems, at least to me, that this guy is relating to the players, and that's a huge, important piece. And we've locked in some pretty good recruits like Mal Coleman. I mean, he was kind of flipping around a little bit, and then
he was never going anywhere. I think he just liked to give people
even so. I mean, you got Mal Coleman, Jalen Lloyd, Isaiah McMorris next year. Devon Hall. Those are all a lot of the top receiving talents and stuff in the state, and that's at least somewhat of a testament that they want to come play for him. So I think it's a good sign.
Yeah, absolutely. You got the best kids in the state. You have to get them. And I think, last however many years, guys have went elsewhere. So you're right. That's been a good testament that those guys have committed here and they want to come help turn the ship around.
From an NIL standpoint, this is something that I love it. As an outsider and someone who started a company that's dedicated to building back the Huskers, not on the screen, but I guess I'm excited about it because I think it's an opportunity for Nebraska to truly lean into the Nebraska fan support and create all of these different business opportunities that encourage players and recruits to come play at Nebraska. I just think we have an unparalleled, fan base and opportunities here, and it's the only thing in the state. And so I think it helps us level the playing field. But for you, what's your overall take on it, of whether it's good, whether it's bad, what it does to the locker room or potentially does to the locker room? I'm curious, as like a former player, you would have a much better handle on the goods and the bads of what it can or will do.
Yeah. Good questions. There's a lot that goes into it, a lot of thoughts. I do think something was needed. I'm surprised there hasn't been much regulation on it. What's Texas quarterback?
Arch Manning or Quinn
Ewers. What, he went to Ohio State for a year, got $1 million, signed some cards, and then just leaves. Smart by him, but it just seems wild to me. You definitely have to have a great head coach to be able to manage all that, manage the locker room. And it does get difficult because kind of relating to, it's like, say a walk-on is constantly outperforming a scholarship guy, but the scholarship guy is that big, highly recruit. The fans want to see him. They know him. But, when do you put the walk-on guy who may be doing better or another scholarship guy who wasn't highly as recruited or maybe in the media as much? And so now it's, you got some guys making a ton of money, but if they're not performing, can they just make that money sitting on the bench?
Yeah.
But, I do think there's been some great things of it. What's it? That Dakotas Crawford, that heating and air commercial. It was perfect for the company. They went viral.
Yeah.
But then, he tears his ACL, never plays and transfers, but he gets the money. So
he's our Quinn Ewers.
Yeah. So there's a lot that goes into it, but you figured it was happening at some point. But I agree. I think Nebraska's in as great spot as anybody. You got the open door skies with Blake Lawrence and Adi Kunalik right here in the backyard helping assist that whole thing. So there's no reason we can't, be the best.
Did you feel pretty taken care of, I guess, without it, being legal, like well supported and stuff, long term and for your career and beyond and everything at Nebraska?
Yeah, shoot, when I got put on scholarship after 2 years, I thought I had a ton of money. You get books for free at that time. As a walk-on, you only got lunch at the training table for free. You didn't even get dinner; you had to pay for it. So the whole landscape's changed a lot. Walk-ons, I think they get every meal they get. Wow. It was serious. They could give us bagels, but they couldn't give you cream cheese. Outside the weight room. Yeah, it was crazy.
What?
It changed a lot.
So does it drive you nuts then seeing Shedeur Sanders with a $70,000 watch as he's walking around campus? Is that just
Yeah, well, I think his dad probably could have got that for him, but it is crazy. And you got some college guys probably making more than some guys in the NFL, which is
I think a lot of them are. That's why they're staying back. Blake Corum up in Michigan said he would. He'd make more of Michigan staying than going.
Yeah, which is it's just wild to me, but I guess that's the day and age we're at, I guess.
Yeah, that is absolutely crazy.
We've got a question on here that's in order to ask what's the favorite game you've played in, but I'm gonna make it twofold. Ask you what your favorite game is that you played in Nebraska, and then I want to tell you what my favorite game is, but it's an obvious one because I want to talk about Michigan State. It's one of my favorite plays of all time. But you tell me what your first one is. That's a leading question.
Crazy.
Yeah, Michigan State obviously is up there. Just because going into that game, I wasn't even sure if I was going to play. My foot was pretty bad, and so obviously what happened there was that was a fun game. But probably my last game against Tennessee in the bowl game, just because I feel that really helped me get a chance at the next level. Tennessee had some pretty good guys, and made a few plays and had a few touchdowns. So I do think, and I had a lot of fun that game. But obviously, yeah, Michigan State, probably the best memory I've had.
Can we talk about it? So
you gotta talk about it.
Yeah.
So you're out of bounds, but one of the greatest catches of all time. Yeah, allegedly out of bounds. No video proof.
Yeah.
I mean, so we had no chance in that game, right? I think they were 8-0 at the time, if I recall correctly. And we go into the game, we're tight, close. Like, I mean, take us inside the play. Like,
yeah, we were gassed. We had run all go, however many plays in a row. Westy made a few big catches, and they call in the play, and I was supposed to be on the other side, supposed to be Stanley Morgan. But I was like, nah, young pup, you got your years. I know where the ball is going. And true story, I waved. I told him to stay over there. I knew where the ball was going. And yeah, we were so tired. I didn't even realize what was going on. But yeah, he forced me out for sure.
Yeah, so clearly.
did you know at the time, like, did you have concerns at the time that like they'd call it back because of it? Or were you like, oh no, like I was definitely forced out, I'm good?
Oh no, there was definitely concerns.
Yeah.
And then there was a lot of concerns after the kickoff.
Yeah.
I think we kicked it out of bounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, kicked out. Yeah, I'm getting old, forgetting. But you're thinking game-winning catch, and then they're driving. You're like, you've got to be kidding me. The whole world is tipped upside down. But no, fun time. It was fun, obviously, selfishly for me, but for the team, for the fans, it was a great memory, and I can't wait for the next one.
Is it, if you get stopped in the street or if you meet somebody, is that the play they bring up, or what's the thing that most people say to you?
Yeah, definitely that one. Yeah, a few months ago, I was walking around Hy-Vee with my girlfriend, and some random guy just like got in my face. He's like, Michigan State, let's go. And my girlfriend, she's like, what is going on? She thinks it's so dumb, but pretty funny. But I
love that. Yeah, I'd love that forever, man. Every deal you walk into for the business standpoint, it's like, you guys ever seen Michigan State 2015?
Well, the most absurd part too. Like, I just had to look it up because I was like, I think we had a couple big. We were down 12 with 4 minutes left.
Yeah, big time comeback.
So we scored with a minute 47. Tommy snuck one in. That was a 10-play drive, and then had to get the ball back. It's like,
yeah, we were running quite a bit those last 5 minutes, that's for sure. But at that point, there's so much adrenaline going. You're tired, but you're not going to stop running. And Westy made a couple great catches and got us in position, and Tommy was firing, that's for sure. He was no fear back there. He was going to chuck it, and again, he had confidence that we were going to come down with it.
It's crazy too, and I'll let you transition to the NFL questions after this. But it is like, and I had a good time like looking up all of these names and all the names you're bringing up. We were so deep at the wide receiver position. Your entire career, like with Stanley Morgan, with Kenny was just, a star for 3-4 straight seasons. Like, you had 3 strong seasons that I don't know. I feel like we've had a revolving door at wide receiver the last 6 seasons, that there was such stability that you guys had for really like a 5-year period.
Yeah, we did have some guys too. And, I think some gets maybe forgotten about a bit just because the style of offense, maybe we were running like Quincy Enunwa.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a monster. If he'd be in some of these other offenses that throw it however many times a game, I mean, he would have went first round, no doubt. He was a freak. But they were great guys to learn from and great role models and teachers of the game, and wanted everyone else to do good. So, Timmy Marlowe,
great one.
he was a legend. awesome dude.
Great throwback name.
He was big for me when I first got there. He's like, hey, learn the whole playbook, learn every position, because honestly, that's how you're going to first get an opportunity. And I took it to heart. I learned everything, and so it helped me be on the field more. That last year, last 2 years, we were deep, but I knew every position, and so I was out there quite a bit because I could just rotate, and we had packages for each guy, just kind of like I mentioned earlier. These young kids need a package. We had packages. When Stan came in, we knew it was probably 1 of 10 plays, and he was probably getting it because he was different. I mean, he's still, he's one of the best.
Yeah, he's a beast. Yeah, it's crazy, and I guess that's what's these conversations are the ones that I'm like, I can't believe, how did we end up in this spot that we're already playing essentially like 2 walk-on wide receivers, and we have high expectations for Coleman, but you've got Ty Hahn out there, you've got Bullock out there. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, but you're like, how did we end up with freshman walk-ons?
Yeah,
that are just.
It is tough, and especially. Then if the balls aren't thrown in the right spot, it makes them like, because, last game, if Ty Hahn catches one in stride for a touchdown, he probably seems a little bit better.
Yeah.
But it just seems when things aren't going and they just aren't going. And
yeah,
it's tough to really tell. I need to probably record some games and really watch them back to get a full grasp of everything. But yeah, it's no better time to step up and make a name for yourself. And yeah, I hope Malachi can get on a roll here, because I mean, physically he's
big,
a lot different than us three. He's big, he's fast, he can jump, he can catch. So I hope yeah.
What just to tie in some of the like the transition, I guess, like, so with that NIL comment on some players debating like, should I go to the league, should I come back another year and stuff. It's hard to blame some of the players too for like going through a transition time and saying like, I just don't know about this. Do you, like, when you guys were transitioning and stuff, did you was it harder to recruit as well? They're doing a good job recruiting and stuff, but if you don't really know the coaches and you're doing the peer recruiting and stuff, did you guys have like host recruits and were you just like, well, you're committing to the university, or like, how do they coach you on how to approach that?
Yeah, it's when Pelini was the coach, he kind of had the reputation. Guys kind of knew what they were getting themselves into, coming to Nebraska. Everyone that played for both, he was hard on you, but he'd have your back. He'd try to develop you as best he could to get a shot at the NFL. And then, when Coach Reilly was here, it was a little bit different because he kind of let his position coaches do most of the coaching and recruiting and whatnot. And, so when receivers would come in, I mean, our job was easy. They knew who our receiver coach was. He's big on social media. He's got a lot of guys in the NFL. Everyone talks highly. So it's like, you guys can go where you want, but if you want to get to the league, this is where you need to come. It doesn't matter what style of offense. This guy, he's put 10s and 20s and 30s of guys in the NFL. He knows what he's doing. So, that definitely made it easier. But now that you mentioned NIL, it would be hard to recruit. And, I think Rule's done a good job. And I think he came out the other day, he's like, we want guys that want to be here. That, they don't, he's like, we're not going to bribe kids with NIL because as soon as they're not playing, they're finding the next school if they don't really want to be there. So there's that fine line for sure. You have to have the NIL to be competitive, but you got to find the guys that want to be there to be there.
Yeah, 100%. So when you, like, if you were still playing in college specifically, who would you be signing an NIL deal with? Who would be your top dog?
I think I'd have to go with Runza.
Yes.
It's pretty basic. It's pretty basic of an answer.
Yeah, hot pocket.
And probably Dairy Queen. I'd have to probably get in on that.
Cute, nice. Yeah, get on Warren Buffett's good side there.
You can't probably say berries or the brass rail. You probably get frowned on, but pretty good spots too.
The brass rail supports you in other ways. It's not NIL specifically. But yeah, so you had the you had the honor to be a part of a couple of different NFL teams and stuff. Pretty awesome. Something not too many people get to say. But yeah, you had kind of a familiar story. You leave, and so many guys are. It's no one, right, I think, recognizes just how hard it is to be on any part of any NFL team, even if you're a star at the college level. And so you, I guess, just for your perspective, so you led the 2017 Bills. I was like looking back, you led the 2017 Bills preseason wide receiver core. You were, having a great preseason. Pretty awesome. I mean, you're a walk-on, from Grand Island, Nebraska. You get out to, to Buffalo. You're leading the team. You've made it. I imagine your thought at the time was like, I can do this. Did you feel when they ended up cutting you, like, was it like, what just happened? Like, you just got the rug kind of pulled out, or what's it like going through that?
Yeah. No, good questions. The NFL, it's very, obviously very competitive. It's very mental.
Yeah.
It's very hard not to overthink or count numbers. And, training camp, they're cutting people every day.
Yeah.
During the season, and even they're bringing guys in to work out. There's always people. They're always looking to replace you. I thought I was going to get drafted to the Packers. They flew me out on a pre-draft visit. Then during the draft, they called me saying, "Hey, we got 3 picks left. We're going to take you." They end up taking one of he's a friend now, Malachi Dupree, receiver from LSU. And then he ended up back up in Buffalo with me, but it was probably a good thing because they were kind of stacked at that point. And so, me, Keith Williams, my agent, it was Keyshawn Johnson, this dude, Chris Ellison, all the teams that reached out that wanted me to be a free agent, we kind of looked at the rosters, and Buffalo seemed like the best fit, best chance. So, yeah, we go there, and, it's a grind. You maybe not get a ton of reps at practice, but when you're in, you better do the right thing. And then you slowly learn how much of a business it is. And that first year, I had a great preseason.
Yeah.
In the last preseason game, I had a few catches, and I got smoked on a slant. So I had to get checked for a concussion. They said no, but head coach, and everyone's like, "Nope, you're done for the day." So I got all the veterans coming over, like, "Dude, you made it." Richie Incognito, all those guys, like, "Man, you made it." So I'm feeling good. Game over, whatever. Next day, call, cut. And I'm like,
wow,
man. They're like, "No, we want you for practice squad." And, at that point, you're naive to everything. I'm like, well, someone else will call and whatever. End up staying there. And, I found out later that, they kept me out of the game because they didn't want other teams to see me. Which I'm like, you really learn it's a business.
Yeah.
But, I had a great experience there.
Wow.
Great group of guys. Shoot, I talk to a lot of the guys all the time. Shoot, I got Micah Hyde. I lived with him and his wife for a year.
Awesome.
That's the dude I've ever met. But it is crazy. But it's so mental. You can't count the numbers. And people say, "Oh, practice squad in the NFL." I could do that. Well,
no.
At that point, there's only 10 people total on a practice squad, 53 on a team.
Oh, wow. Huh.
That's not a lot. I think we had 6 receivers total. It's at that point, even now. You go look at some of the practice squad rosters and look what they did in college. Some pretty good players.
Yeah. So what do you do, I guess, like after that? That's got to be just that hard, like, oh shit, like I didn't, like, now what kind of thing. But do you just keep? Do you just rise and do you hope for another team to call, or do you?
Yeah. So good question. So I did I was on practice squad most of the year. I got moved up to the 53 the last 5 games. Yeah. And then I was part of the team that first team to make the playoffs for the Bills, and I forget, it was like 17 years or something. So being part of that was super awesome.
Yeah.
Anyways, had a great team. Next year, come out, training camp, having a great camp. I was running with the ones, break my ribs. And that was tough. You know, I'm trying to fight through it. I was in a great spot. I was playing great and ended up getting cut. So then, you know, you fly back home. Just you can't really rehab broken ribs. You know, it's kind of resting. Then teams were flying me out to work out all everywhere. I was traveling a ton, but it's, you know, you just sit at home. You never know what's going to come. The team flies you out. Are they going to look to sign me? Or are they going to just want to see me in case someone gets hurt?
Yeah.
And it was pretty exhausting. You know, I signed to Detroit, then went to Dallas, then went back to Detroit. Then I went to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And then for training camp, they claimed me off waivers. And, you know, my week to make my push, our receiver coach died.
What?
Yeah, he died at training camp in his dorm. And so we basically had the week off. And so, you know, there's some things that's out of your control.
Yeah.
You know, there's some bad breaks, but I got some good breaks, you know.
Oh, sorry, keep going.
No, I was going to say, during my first training camp at Buffalo, really before even the games, I found out later that they're like, hey, I think we got to cut someone who's last on the roster, and it was me. But they're like, oh, no, we're actually good. We don't have to cut anyone this week. And then I made a few plays. But at that point, if I would have got cut then, I would have been home for good. So you can't just focus on the bad things.
I was going to say, so as you're traveling all over the place, you're going to Pittsburgh and Buffalo and all these different places, is it like, are these like surreal pinch yourself moments? Like, I can't believe I'm here in Pittsburgh. I can't believe I'm here in Buffalo. It's just so cool as a childhood dream. Or does it become like more exhausting? Like, I can't believe I got to do this again. Is it exciting from a childhood standpoint or like stressful or all of it?
You know, a little bit of both. You know, you kind of get used to it, but, you know, as first in Buffalo, you know, pretty surreal feeling, obviously, you know, guys you've watched or guys on your fantasy team know, and then you're hanging out with them. But then you realize, man, they're just guys, man. A lot of great dudes. But it's the most stressful thing. You know, there's just no job security. You never know when your phone's ringing and you get cut, the whole world's finding out about it. But you're in that position, so, you know, you can't just feel bad about it because, you know, a lot of people are striving to be in that spot. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, but definitely stress and some surreal moments. And it was fun. You know, a lot of my buddies got to come out and meet guys and hang out. And, you know, I really enjoyed that part of it as well.
How's your body now?
I'm good. My one shoulder is a little not great, but I'm all right.
You're good?
Yeah.
Some bad ones.
Rehab through it. Ribs are good.
It could be a lot worse, that's for sure. I feel pretty good. I'm a golfer, though, so my body I don't get beat up anymore.
How are you? What's your handicap sitting?
I try to be. I don't know. I think I'm like a 2 right now.
What?
Jesus, dude.
It's my competitive fix. I need it.
Yeah.
Damn.
I get that.
I was not expecting you to say. Where you play at?
I play at Oak Hills Country Club up here.
Cool.
In Omaha.
Good for you.
Dang, you winning like local league cups? What are they?
There's some good golfers out there that
Oak
put
Hill
it to me,
title.
but someday.
Yeah, something to strive for. So how does if somebody's trying to make that decision, they're saying, okay, do I want to, you know, make the jump to the NFL, but I have no idea if I'm going to be on a team or whatever. How do you think players now, like, how do they make their market value assessment? Like, how do they say I'm worth this much in college versus the NFL?
Yeah, you know, well, the thing is, you're not going to say if you're worth it or not. Some team will let you know if you are or not, but, you know, I would say, you know, you got to do it. You know, it might be stressful, might be tough for a year or two, but you're young at that point. You know, the real world will still be waiting for you, and you never know, you know, what can come of it. And, you know, even just the short stint I have, you know, it's helped in my next career in a way. And just those experiences, you know, you got to go for it, regardless if it's NFL or it's something else you want to do in life, not sports. You know, if there's a chance, you might as well just wait and see what happens. I mean, that's, if I would have said, I don't think I could do it, wouldn't even have tried, I know I would have looked back later on and just said, what if I would have tried it? So
Yeah. I mean,
I don't regret nothing about it.
Few people get to ever say, they had that.
I think it's awesome. It's great, man. Especially walking around Nebraska, man, as a former player and an NFL alum.
Yeah,
that's got to play pretty well in a lot of different circles in Nebraska.
Yeah, how did it feel going back to Nebraska? Do you feel like you were welcomed pretty openly? Do you feel like they were, rolling out the red carpet and passing out cocktails, or how was the welcome back?
Yeah, well, I don't think I was good enough for a red carpet, but no, everyone's great. It's, I always tell people, I've lived a few different places across the country, and I don't think there's anywhere better than here. A lot of good people. I don't see myself going anywhere. I enjoy it here, and fans are great, and it seems every new staff that comes in here, they're great to former players, and I just truly enjoy it.
That's awesome.
Good to hear.
Yeah, that is good to hear. I mean, honestly, you hope that like the new regime doesn't say, we're cutting ties with the old ways. You should never hear that. Like, it's so important to Nebraskans, and like Nebraska football is just our lifeblood. So,
Yeah.
Did you, when you were at the game and stuff, did you guys have a chance to sit down with any of the coaches and players? And
no, not at the game, but during spring practice.
Probably not at the game.
Yeah, no, we went to a few spring practices, and former players went up to the team auditorium, and Rule spoke to the team, and he was very impressive. And I think everyone was buying in and excited to see what he can do, and knowing we can't rush to assume things, or obviously we all want to be great right away, but it may take some time. But I think most people have seen some improvement, and hopefully keep stacking on that.
Yeah, I've actually heard from a few different alums that were at that the speech was basically around like, this isn't an eras thing, this is a we thing. Like, everybody's a Nebraska football alum.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got the gift, man. He's got a bunch of stuff going viral right now. These like pregame, postgame speeches, man. He's got me all fired up. I love the guy.
He's not going to mess up any interviews, that's for sure. He's smooth.
Yeah, he's got the private and the public thing. I mean, he's got everything going on. It's just like he's got to, kind of like you were saying, he's got to stack some wins.
Yeah. Our schedule sets up pretty nicely. So
what I'm saying?
We'll see.
God.
Maryland might be tough, but
are you when you were playing, like you mentioned the pressers and stuff, Pelini, maybe not his finest attribute, just talking to the press. His beef with Dirk Shadlin, oh my God, I just lived for that every single.
And I coursed.
Do players? I mean, I don't know. Like, how attuned to that are you? Like, are you? I know they say like, our players are drowning it out, and our players, they know how to deal with adversity. But like, are you hearing the pressers? Are you guys, pretty attuned to what's going on, like with the coach speak and everything that they're saying too?
Yeah, I know. You definitely know. You can say you tune stuff out, but you're always going to hear it. And whether it's someone on the team or whether it's one of your buddies on campus saying something, you know what's going on. And yeah, Pelini, the media wasn't always the best to him. He just couldn't flip the switch off. Yeah. But he was passionate. He wanted to win more than anything. And today's day and age, as much social media and stuff there is, you got to be able to play both sides. And I think Rule is, probably the best there is, especially at this point at doing that, and not doing it, in a fake manner just for popularity. People like, I truly think, what he's saying and he's believing. And I'm bought in for sure.
Yeah, the Pelini thing's think about him probably more than I should, but because he would knock down this schedule. He goes 10-2 this year, I think. I don't know if you like that. To me, is at minimum 10-2. You've got Michigan, and then you get tripped up with a Wisconsin or an Iowa. But like, what he was unbelievable at was he never lost a game that he wasn't like not never, but
Yeah.
he was able to knock down like Illinois, done, easy. Northwestern, got it, check. Like, these next 3 for him across all of his whole career is like, yeah, we're going to beat Northwestern. Yeah. Purdue, got it. Illinois, check. So I don't know. It's always interesting, like kind of look back and be like the things that, we got tripped up on is like any big game or, an Ohio State type game, but the Illinois and Northwesterns, he handled.
Yeah, I know. It's just, I always feel we're to a point where it's like, God, that should be an easy win, but they haven't been. But
yeah,
just part of it. I mean, they got good players too, and coaches that are working long hours trying to win. Everyone's in it, but I hope soon we get to that point where you're right. Like the easy wins are easy wins, and then you got to upset some people when you're maybe not supposed to win.
Yeah. All right, Brandon, we're going to keep going, chat a little bit longer. You're more than welcome to join us. We're going to talk Northwestern, do a little preview, but you've been more than generous with your time. So totally up to you. You're more than welcome to hang on, talk a little Northwestern, or you can hang out or head to bed. It's late. You tell us.
It is getting pretty close to my bedtime, so I might jet here. But yeah, any other time you guys want, just let me know, and I appreciate you having me on.
Awesome, Brandon. Thanks for joining us, man. Really appreciate your time. So yeah, great to hear these stories. These are a lot of great throwbacks for us.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, guys.
All right, man.
Yep, later.
Folks, that was Brandon Reilly. That's awesome. I love going down memory lane. That's a ton of fun. That's
that Keith Williams drop is just that's blowing my mind right now.
I know. I've been like Keith Williams, and then I've been like Keith Williams, and I've also been hesitant to pull for Mickey Joseph, and I'm sure he's out there somewhere too. But I don't know. He's loyal to McGuire. He wants it to happen. So
yeah, no, I love it. He's got the right young energy and stuff. I think Brandon himself, he's got good perspective on everything.
Yeah, I think that's these are great conversations for us to have. Carricker, we talked to him in our second episode. He's had a lot of similar things to say. He just said he's a great uniter, and he's united across classes and across teams, and he's doing all the right things. And just like Brandon was saying, it's like he's done all the right things. He's saying all the right things. He's done. It's as good as it could be. He's just got to stack wins. But man, imagine if he starts stacking wins right now.
Uh-oh.
I mean,
uh-oh.
What are we doing? Like,
high is the limit.
I mean, okay. Should we transition to Northwestern?
Yeah. The Northwestern Wildcats, man, they had a tough offseason. Oh, that didn't go as planned. Jeez. So they lose their longest tenured, probably their longest tenured like faculty in the entire school or something, but and one of the highest paid employees in the entire state. But
he's now suing them for $130 million.
Some more cash with him. He's suing for $130 million. His old school. That's should get him through the next few years of his life, I think.
Yeah.
God, but yeah. So a bit of a culture shift there. Their new coach, their interim coach, Braun. He's honestly, I didn't think that they would be 3-3 at this point. I didn't know if they were going to win a game. I really didn't. I think they were down by 3 scores to Minnesota late and pulled off a win. So they lost handily to Rutgers. They lost handily to Duke. They lost handily to Penn State, but they took care of UTEP 38-7. They miraculously overcame and beat Minnesota 37-34 in OT. And they beat Howard 23-20. Howard is more than one person. That's an entire school. And they beat him by 3.
I'm pretty sure, and I meant to look this up.
It was
didn't they need like a miracle comeback to beat Howard?
Howard came on late.
Oh, was it Howard came on late?
Yeah.
I mean, 23-20.
It's not great. It's not a large amount of points against Howard. And they were not starting their grad transfer QB, Ben Bryant. He went to Cincinnati. He was a late transfer. He was like, I want to say it was May, maybe even close, like pretty close to summer from Cincinnati. He was coming off of an injury. And he is injured again. I tried to look up if they are starting him this weekend. it is impossible to find
There's
news on
no
Northwestern
information.
football. It's like no one just knows anything, and nobody's seen anything. The other big note in for just like this team in general, no one knows anything because nobody has seen them play. Their attendance figures are it's incredible. Here's it. I just tweeted this out, but at Rutgers, all right, so Rutgers home crowd 53,000. Home game UTEP 14,000.
It's like a high school game.
That is a Texas high school stadium. At Duke, all right, Duke's crowd didn't show up that day either. 18,141. Home game against Minnesota, all right, another big conference game, 20,148. These are per CFBstats.com. Home game versus Penn State, all right, so they got the miracle win. Energy is going the right direction. 25,000 people. 25,000 for a home game against the number 6 team in the country.
Yeah, I think they just and that's like the
22,160. I mean, I think fans are just checked out. They were not excited about this. Fitz got fired. Their offense pretty much stinks. Their defense is okay, but pretty much stinks. Their special teams is average, but also kind of stinks. They've managed to scrap a few wins together, which is awesome.
Yeah.
The thing that gets me about this game is that if Northwestern wants to be bowl eligible, which they do, they have to beat us. They have a schedule that is not really permitting them to win 6 games otherwise, I don't think. And so likewise for us, these next 3 games are so essential to make a bowl game.
Yeah.
And so this game, even though nationally people are probably not going to be paying as much attention, is absolutely huge for us to keep a winning streak going and for Northwestern to try and make a bowl game themselves. So it actually, it carries some excitement, I think, in that way. And I think when 2 programs look at each other and it's like the Spider-Man meme where they're pointing back and forth at each other like, hey, we're both in a little bit of a rut here. I think it is going to bring the energy up quite a bit.
Yeah, I think those are all good directional indicators because I think it's like, so they went 1-11 last year with their only win being
us.
Allegedly game in Europe that didn't count.
Yeah, no,
it was not in the United States. Okay. So obviously games in the United States don't count.
It does not recognize international.
It was
loss.
Certainly a direct result of Frost getting fired. Was by 4 games in, they were clearly the worst team in the country. So this is a 1-11 team that's turned into a 3-3 team, which that's 300% improvement for them already. But you're like, the reason that they would beat us over the last handful of years is because I think Fitz is a great coach, and Fitz is able to maximize the talent that they have on the field and make them play incredibly well. And they always have a very strong defense. But you're coming off a 1-11 season without Fitz. And you lose your leader, and you lose probably one of the best coaches in college football that, conceptually, we're in a rut too, but we at least have a stability of a coach who's going to be here. They've got a bunch of guys who are all probably trying to figure out where their next job is. They've got a bunch of players that are probably about to transfer. That's this is one of those games you just got to score a couple and just, bury them and shut it down. They'll probably hang around. I mean, if they're able to hang with Minnesota the way they were, if they were able to hang, and keep these things tight, they theoretically hang around. But God, what a golden opportunity for us. It is just
good.
These next 3 couldn't set up better for us. So the fact that you're taking on, a team that's in shambles in Northwestern, and once they find their footing, maybe they get back to where they were. You follow that up with a game against a 2-5 Purdue, who also just can't find, they're just getting crushed left and right. They just got buried by Ohio State. And then you've got another coachless team in Michigan State.
Right.
So you get 3 straight games against two teams without a head coach.
Yep.
All 3 of them are in a free fall. Purdue's in a first-year head coach. Braum is clearly an elite coach at Louisville, although they just lost, which is kind of a weird game. But
ignore that.
But then you go out to Maryland, and they just lost to Illinois. Illinois is one of the worst football teams I've seen in the last 10 years.
And Wisconsin apparently can't score on good defense.
And Wisconsin can't. In Wisconsin, it's 6 points. And Iowa has quite literally the worst statistical offense almost in the history of the country. But they're 133rd. And you see their tight end, Iowa's tight end is done for the season too. Their leading pass catcher.
Oh,
gone.
Gosh.
Done for the
I
season.
saw he got injured. I did not see he's out. Wow.
Done for the season. So you talk about a 6-game stretch that, like, wow. I mean, it does not, it's impossible for it to set up better for us than this. We will never have I've been saying it since the beginning of the season. This will be the easiest schedule that we play the entire season, that we just got to put it together.
Entire decade.
Never. I mean, we're playing USC next season. Like, good Lord.
Sure.
But like that. Yeah, but in particular, these programs that are all in transitional stages, Northwestern, no coach, Michigan State, no coach, Maryland's struggling right now, Wisconsin, now you're heading into later months, that it does favor to what Rule's trying to build of this defense first culture. I am terrified of our offense. It kills me. God, that whole conversation with Brandon was like killing me. That as he's just rattling off like Stanley Morgan, it's like, God, we had one Stanley Morgan. If we had one Stanley Morgan, we run the table. If we have Trey Palmer, you win the next 6 games.
Well, yeah, no, he's absolutely right. Like, what better time to make a name for yourself? And truly, like, a Northwestern caliber game, this is when you start to find out, like I can just go to you and we'll just be more talented. We'll just be better. And so, Mal Coleman, like, he's a very sought after player. I do agree with Brandon Reilly saying like he was never going anywhere else, but he did take some official visits to other programs. He did. So anyway, he's a sought after player, and the reason is like he is a physical monster. He's a track star. He's like 6'4". He's 220 plus. I mean, he needs the playbook. And he needs the mental aspect to come together. And he's the type of guy that can become a star like pretty quickly. And not only can he has to. Like, that's the difference here, is that like he needs to be, cramming night and day. Like, people need to be bringing him snacks to his dorm room so he can stay up all night. Somebody feed him some Adderall, let him keep just studying and keep getting the film down, the playbook, everything. He's being forced into a position that's uncomfortable, but this is where like the cream rises to the top here. Yeah. And Northwestern too, like the other thing that I guess makes me, gives me some comfort is when you look at like what is our game plan. Well, so we run the ball 60 on offense. We run the ball 62% of the time, and so it's just like looking into what is their weaknesses. They cannot stop the run. They are like horrendous at stopping the run. In fact, they're averaging giving up 4.4 yards per rush, and that's with facing these FCS teams as well. Opponents are running the ball 40 times per game on them, and they're giving up 4.4 yards per rush. They're 101st in opponent rushing yards per game as well. They're a little bit better on the pass defense. But that to me is like, okay, we run the ball 40 times plus a game. We run the ball for 5 yards per carry. This is a run the damn ball game through and through. And a pass should be considered a trick play. Try and take the top off to Coleman. Design some plays to get Kemp the ball. Use Fedoni. He's going to be a mismatch at all times.
Fedoni's big.
But there shouldn't really be a time when it's like we shouldn't struggle too much on the ground to the point where our offense like has to abandon the run game. And that's why I'm feeling a little confident on offense.
Yeah, I think I think I'm kind of going back to the Illinois game too, of we don't need the offense to do that much, right? Like, that the playbook that was set from the Illinois game is, you kind of look back on that game and it was the most frustrating offensive performance of all time. But I think the defense wreaks a lot more havoc than we probably give them credit for, in the sense that, Illinois is making a ton of mistakes, but it's like, was that because of pressure that we got the interceptions and the fumbles from the special teams and everything else? I'm looking at the stats now for Illinois versus Maryland. So Illinois, who had 23 rushing yards against us, backed it up with 130 the following week against Maryland. And they had, 200 passing yards, 340 total yards, and they put up 27 points and beat Maryland, who was 5-1. And everyone was kind of like, maybe Maryland is, one of the top teams in the conference. So, part of me is kind of like, okay, if that's the model of like the D can do a lot of stuff, like the offense needs to literally like kick a couple field goals and have two good drives and win 20-7. Yeah.
Kick field goals. Are we good there?
No, we're 3 for 7, I think, on the season, which is fantastic.
42%.
42%.
129th in the country there.
129th. Well, we're not last, so that's good.
How many teams are there?
Why not? It's 133. And the only reason I know that is because someone was talking today about how Iowa has the 133rd best offense in the country, or worse, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, that actually was what I was about to say was, so the comparisons between Iowa and Nebraska this year, a little painful, but painfully accurate. Like, I should probably tweet something out about that too. But our offenses are extremely comparable statistically.
Yeah.
Our defenses are actually also pretty darn comparable. And the thing is about like Iowa's defense, I don't want to say this and get all the Hawkeye panties in a jumble, but we don't actually know if they are like a great defense. They are like, the Big Ten has a couple elite offensive teams. Penn State lit them up.
Yeah, true.
Michigan lit us up.
Yeah.
So is it the competition that you're playing? I mean, I think that they're good because they're handling the competition that they're dealt, and they're winning based on their defense yet again, and they're always pretty rock solid. But the fact is, like, gosh, they play one team with a top 25 offense, and they got lit for 31 points.
Yeah, 0 points. Yeah, they lost. Yeah, it's a good point. I think there's also been we're having like an existential crisis on how much Rule loves Iowa. Like, he talks about him a lot in press conferences. I don't even know if he's getting asked about him.
No, Matt, stop it. Stop saying
Yeah, because and part of me appreciates it. Like, they might finish 10-2 because they're not going to beat us, but they'll be 10-2. That's crazy.
We have to band together as Big Ten brothers in arms and stop Iowa from going 10-2.
But that's where I kind of come back to,
how do you explain that to anybody that they were
10-2 without scoring, without having 50 passing yards
on our watch? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, so I don't know, but you can see his like eyes light up. He's like, well, they scored more points than the other team, and they're able to do all these things. And you're like, oh my God. Like, I appreciate the sentiment of they've got a very strong defensive foundation. I like that we're building that at Nebraska, but I'm also like, I can't, we got to figure out the offense. That's the only part that gets me to watch the games is the offense. And like, for us just to not even care, like, please just give me a couple of these guys back. Let's figure this out.
I mean, our defense is, I don't see us giving up more than 14 points this game. It's just, they do pass a lot. And I would say if you had to choose right now between our rush defense and pass defense, I guess you'd probably pick our rush defense being a little bit better there. They throw the ball 36 times a game. They're only at 6 yards a pass. So they're like a, short, quick completions type team. Not too much explosiveness. They've got the receiver, AJ Henning. They're going to get him involved in the running game. He's got like 12 rushes on the year through 6 games. And then he's got their most passes and stuff. So he's the one that's able to take things over the top there. So I think that our defense is going to stack up pretty well. And like the recipe for us to win the rest of these games is we want to play a mediocre offense because our defense will win that battle. And then our offense needs to be playing a pretty bad defense. And then we'll win that battle.
Yeah.
And that's like, I think we'll handle most average offenses. I think we'll handle above average offenses on the defensive side. It's that our offense needs to be playing a pretty bad defense, and Northwestern's defense is pretty bad. So that's putting us at double-digit favorites. I don't know if we cover that. I will not offer any betting suggestions. As
I think we're 11. Aren't we 11?
4 for 18 last week in top 25 pick 'em against the spread. So
there you go.
I'm going to start fading myself, and we're 11.5 favorites.
11.5. I don't know. That's a good. I'd like to win by 11.5. I'd like to win by more, but I don't know. It's like, what if we put a statement game together and like shut them out and win like 28-0? That'd be sick. That's what like that. I think the bye weeks are like the best thing that can ever happen to you, because like you forget everything about the stress of the season and you're like coming all the way back, and you watch. And I watched you just watch terrible football the whole time. You're like, I watched all of Wisconsin.
Just make fun of everybody else. Like
you're like, I watched Wisconsin.
My horse, not
dude. You watch Wisconsin, Iowa. I was like, wow, Wisconsin is not good. This is crazy. And Iowa stinks. I watched Purdue get their doors blown off. I watched Illinois beat Maryland. You're like, this is crazy. And like all of it was setting up so perfectly for us. Like Colorado blew the biggest lead of all time.
Yeah, that was delicious.
Yeah, all of it. But all of it's just like, oh my God. In particular, just paying attention to all of like the upcoming games of like Purdue stinks, Northwestern stinks, Maryland, like not good, Wisconsin really struggling. I don't know. It's like the time is ripe to make something happen. So, God, it's like you just hope these guys can just stay freaking healthy, man. It's like all these guys just like we're dropping like flies.
Yeah, they man. And Northwestern, just like with everything that they've been through though too, like this just becomes, I mean, before the season even started, before you knew a thing about Nebraska this year, you saw the Northwestern news and there's just like, okay, that's a win. I mean, God, these guys are sexually assaulting each other.
Yeah, forget it.
Okay, well, that's a win. Like that's.
Well, I think that just that plus like.
And how does that change the locker room now that they can't, touch each other in the locker room? Like now they're probably questioning everything they thought they knew about football.
Well, I think that go back to what Brandon and Reilly was saying. Think about from that perspective, where he's saying there's locker room animosity at firing. At firing Pelini, and they had an entire offseason to like rally together, right? And he's like, imagine like they fired him in like August. Imagine what that locker room is like right now, how pissed they are with the athletic department, like how pissed, I don't know what Michigan State's locker room is like, but like they fired him, the midseason. So you're talking about these guys who are just, just like Brandon was saying, you got a divided locker room at both of those places. The players are quitting, they're going to transfer portal, they're trying to find the next spot they can go to that like, these are just, to me, like you can't.
And then the other players are wearing Cats Against the World shirts.
Yeah. They're just games you can't lose.
Can we get a little perspective here, guys? Do you know why? Do you even understand why the world is against you? It's because you're beating the crud out of each other.
Allegedly.
In the shower. Like, what do you mean Cats Against the World? It's like, guys, you think we're going to be like cheering for you now?
Let me ask you this. What type of hysteria goes through Nebraska if we are 7-3 heading into Wisconsin?
Oh, man.
Can you imagine?
Oh.
Or better yet, 8-3 heading into Iowa. And Iowa's 10-1.
Oh.
Play that one out.
Oh my, it's the dream scenario. I mean, it really is. Like, here's what I was actually like thinking about earlier too. These are just things that go through my head when I'm walking around the house. You want every game the rest of the year to be meaningful. And it like, even if you are saying like, okay, well, we're not going to beat Wisconsin or Iowa. Like, okay, sure. But you want it to be meaningful to like when you start that game. You want it to be like, this could be a monumental moment every single game. Like you don't like once you're eliminated from contention and you're eliminated from, like bowl contention, like the players feel that they lose that too. But if you're going into November and you've got Maryland, Wisconsin, Iowa on deck, and you are, 6-3 or 5-4, like you want those games carry a little bit of extra value. And that's all you want as a fan too. It's like you want to just be so bought in, and you just want to be so invested in those moments.
Yeah, I think, again, you can set it up. Win the next two, win the next two, and you're like one game away, obviously, from bowl eligible, which is the number everybody's chasing. It's at number 6. But I think we're going to be playing meaningful football, from a big standpoint too, because I think we're not out of the Big Ten West race until you've lost 4 games.
It's just going to be tough to do it with, one skill player remaining from summer camp. So,
one skill player. Yeah. Well,
but I don't think that we're. I think that if we put a good showing together versus Northwestern, this is an opportunity basically to solidify our running game. Like Northwestern, their pass defense is not that much better, but I just think that we need to get to a point where like Harburg's completing comfortable passes and our running game is taking care of the rest. And I mean, the Northwestern, like their opponent completion percentage is 63.5. That's 97th in the country. The opponents like rarely ever have to pass because their run defense is so bad. So opponents are only passing 26 times per game on them, which is the 14th lowest amount in the country. And their pass yards per game allowed, though, is 193. So, I mean, they're giving up about 200 on the ground and about 200 through the air. So that's like a nice balanced, porous defense for us to take advantage of and get your offense right going into the next week. I'm excited.
Feeling good. All right, we wrap this thing up.
Nebraska's covering. I talked back into it. I wasn't going to bet it, but now I am.
Wrap this thing up. Feel good. Score prediction.
It was a great bye week. A fantastic bye week. Other than Notre Dame winning, a lot of teams that I wanted to lose lost. It was great. It's fun. It's fantastic. The only, just for fans that are on edge right now about Iowa, I get it. They might be a double-digit win team, but we're going to band together. We're not going to allow it to happen. Technically, I'm just putting this out there. Iowa beating Wisconsin was probably better for our chances at the title as well.
Correct.
Looking at Wisconsin's schedule, they now have a loss. Then they still have Ohio State. That's going to be a loss.
2 losses. And
so that's 3 for them. And that's 2 for them. They might have 2 going into our game. We needed them to have 2 going into our game, basically. I mean, unless we win out. But Iowa, I think, is going to lose another one. And then we're going to be playing Iowa when they have 2 losses.
Who's Iowa going to lose to? Minnesota?
Buddy. Yeah, Iowa could lose to anybody on any given week.
Yeah, that's true. When you can't
play a game, they just won a football game passing for 37 yards.
So they have Minnesota, who's probably like their best shot of losing. I mean, Minnesota, maybe. Northwestern, they're not going to lose to. They're not going to lose to Rutgers. Illinois, if they play, I don't know. Illinois is trash, though. So, like, that's like the worst.
Just beat Maryland. It's the Big Ten West, man. Anything is possible. Anything on any given moment is possible in the Big Ten West. All your dreams could come true. It's a fairyland.
Yeah. I mean, I just think Illinois is a trash team, but if they put it all together like they did against, Maryland, who knows? All right, let's wrap this thing up. I think we win big. 28-7.
28-7.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say like 55-14, but now that I'm looking at our numbers,
what is Bullock gonna have 9 touchdowns? Like, how are you gonna get 54 like that? We haven't scored 54 all season. We have like 6 offensive touchdowns all season, right? Like, score 6 in one game.
Actually, I do think Northwestern's defense is porous enough that our offense is gonna
28.
It's gonna have its way a little bit more than even at Illinois. So 28 sounds good. I like a 21-7 or maybe a 31-14.
There we go.
I think we're giving up more than 14.
All right, folks. Thanks for listening to HuskGuys podcast. Always great to see you guys. Thanks to Brandon Reilly for coming on. Go get some pipeline jerky. Check land-lore.com, pipeline-jerky.com, HuskGuysStore.com. Get all your good stuff. Thanks, everybody, for listening. See you guys next time. Go Big Red.